Hi, my name is Joseph and welcome to part 10 of chapter 1 of Eiji, Wolf of the Ninth Avenue. So this part was action-packed, and although it was short, I still think there was a lot to discuss within it. So let's go ahead and begin with the summary. So part 10 begins right where part 9 left off. Eiji activated the mind link, and essentially the world around him starts fading away. While it starts fading away, some summer memories that Eiji had when he was a child reemerges. He remembers a time when it seems to be a summer picnic of some kind. He's with his friends and family at some kind of river. And lo and behold, so I only know about this, so minor spoilers for anyone who's not following along with the additional information being provided with Digimon Seekers. I don't know about you guys, but I personally was only following along with the story itself, not really looking into descriptions of the characters, Digimon, and teams. I only looked into the different teams because I asked the question, is Digimon Seekers worth reading? And I discovered that for Judge's character, Judge has been introduced. He was in part 4, I believe, with Setsuki, when the poachers are introduced as well. The code crackers who are poaching digital tama or digital eggs, and it's revealed that Eiji is actually childhood friends with Judge. Judge's name is Leon Alexander. The story has not yet acknowledged this connection. They've only caught Judge with his digital partner Postmon. And now we're seeing that Eiji has a connection to Judge, but again, the story itself is not making this obvious, not yet. So I'm really looking forward to where this continues. But let's go back to the summary. So Eiji's in the river. At the same time, Leon gets out of the river, and as he gets out, he yells out Eiji's name. And Eiji turns around, but unfortunately, Eiji had entered the river from the deepest part, and his feet gets caught in the sand at the bottom of the river. And because of this, he actually ends up being dragged beneath the river, and it looks like he might be drowning. Before we get any additional details about this memory, the perspective changes, and he starts seeing the world in a new way. In other words, he starts entering the digital world. At this point, there's a page break, and now we're inside the consciousness of Logomon. So the consciousness of Eiji has transferred over into the mind of Logomon. With this being said, it's looking like Eiji can't control any functions. He could just think within Logomon's head. After this transference has been completed, Eiji hears, quote unquote hears, right? Because again, it's Logomon hearing this. He hears a noise and he looks around and he discovers that he's some kind of construction-like yard, some kind of building that's under construction, and a Chumon appears. A Chumon appears. In case one is not a Digimon fan, a Chumon is essentially a pink rat. It sounds kind of nasty, but it's cute in a Digimon kind of way. Digimon's known for cugly features, cute and ugly at the same time. Chumon has some kind of data which looks like cheese in his hands, and he's being chased by a Chuchumon who's riding atop a Damimon. So a Chuchumon also looks like a rat. The only difference is that it's a puppet. It's more puppet aesthetically. Chumon looks more like a traditional rat, but pink colored. His fur is pink, while his Chuchumon, he's more of a puppet rat. And Damimon is described as looking like a poop figure that's metal, and it's holding a weapon. His weapon is a tonfa. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. If anyone's played The Legend of Heroes, it's Lloyd Banding's weapon from the Crossbell duology. But essentially, why is Chuchumon and Damimon chasing Chumon? As it turns out, where Eiji has completed its transference is in the it's known as the Waslam 6th Street, and apparently this turf belongs to Chuchumon and Damimon, and Chumon has stolen food from Chuchumon and Damimon, so they're trying to get it back from Chumon. Hopefully that wasn't confusing. I know the names are a little bit similar, but hopefully one was able to follow along. So before a fight between Chumon and the two instigators occurs, they finally notice Logomon. And when they do notice Logomon, a fight breaks out. Logomon actually tells Chuchumon and Damimon, a rat picking a fight with a wolf, right? Which is pretty cool. Give me a quick second to go back to my notes. Let me make sure I'm not missing anything of importance. Oh yeah, excuse me. So I'm glad I did look at my notes. Before Logomon speaks up and says a rat picking a fight with the wolf, Eiji actually thinks to himself, if this was truly Digimon land and he saw this rat being chased by a puppet rat riding atop a metal poo-shaped like robot, he would be feeling really happy right now, really joyous. His childish heart would be enjoying this, but Eiji recognizes that the situation does not call for enjoyment, so he puts aside his childish heart, quote unquote. That's from verbatim from part 10, and he focuses on the situation at hand. It's explained that Eiji always pays attention to the situation that's currently. Let me start over. I'm sorry. It's explained that Eiji always pays attention to the now. He tries his best to act calmly and to focus on what he can do currently. And that's what he does right now. He puts aside his childish heart, recognizes that he's in a new environment because of a new system, the mind link, and he starts focusing. So going back, Logomon says to Chuchumon and Damimon, a rat picking a fight with the wolf, and they start engaging with one another violently. I don't want to use the word fighting. So Logomon is able to dodge the first attack. Damimon shoots. As it turns out, it's his little tonfa. In case one doesn't know what a tonfa is, essentially, it's a long baton with a little handle on the top, and one holds it from that handle, and usually it protrudes from the front with a little bit hanging over here, not hanging, but sticking out to one side right here. And at the tip of that tonfa, Damimon's tonfa is actually a gun, and it starts shooting at Logomon. Although the gun is not powerful, the bullets of this gun is not powerful. The bullets emit a strong odor, and this distracts not really Logomon, but it does distract Eiji. Eiji thinks to himself, "Oh wow, this must be horrible for Logomon." And this Damimon must be utilizing digital strategies when it comes to Digimon fighting. We'll discuss that during the analysis part. Logomon retaliates or counterattacks by utilizing Howling Fire. Give me a second. Howling Fire. And this attack actually blasts Damimon through a window outside. And Chuchumon comes outside of the cockpit from Damimon, and he looks up at Logomon, recognizes the interface on Logomon's forehead, and excuse me again to make sure I'm not skipping anything of importance. Okay, yeah, Chuchumon actually calls Logomon the demon wolf of the castle of the 9 wolves. So he recognizes him. And before anything else can continue, Chumon, who's still inside, speaks to Logomon. And Eiji does recognize that when he starts speaking with Logomon, Chumon, there's a newfound, his tone is different now. There's some kind of respect in his tone. Excuse me, everyone. And Chumon says, next to Logomon's ear, you've returned to the Waslum. And again, Eiji notices his tone is much more respectful. So at this point, as always, I'm going to go ahead and read it by ending. I'm going to read verbatim how the chapter ends. Oops, I was looking at the wrong page. And it ends with Eiji is completely baffled. You're not looking so good. Logomon turns its nose away. Let me start over, I'm sorry. Eiji is completely baffled. You're not looking so good. Chumon states this. Logomon turns its nose away. Before the fearful wolf can change its mind, Chuchumon tries to run away from him. Eiji, while he has been completely baffled by the conversation, he regains his composure and speaks. Logomon, it's me. Eiji, can you hear me? Logomon. And that's how part 10 ends. So it ends with Eiji finally trying to communicate directly with Logomon. We're going to see in part 11 if indeed Logomon is able to hear Eiji's voice within his own mind, right? I am looking forward to that next part. So let's go ahead and analyze this chapter. Oh, excuse me, this part, not chapter. We're still in chapter 1. So again, although it may seem on the surface like not much has occurred, this chapter is actually a little bit smaller than this part is actually a little bit smaller than last week's, and my notes are actually a little bit shorter as well. It all fits on one page, the summary plus the notes. But despite that, I do think there's a lot for us to dig into. So let's begin. So I do have everything organized this time, so hopefully it goes a little bit more smoothly. But the part that I want to pay attention to is the portion at the beginning. After Eiji gets stuck into the river, Eiji thought he was a good swimmer, but a flowing river is different from a swimming pool. He can't get to the surface. He's completely underwater. What he sees on the surface is another world. The clean water was deeply gouged out and looked like the home of a monster that could easily swallow a child. Air bubbles swirl. He is swallowed whole, and then all of his senses disappear. So the reason why I want to focus on that portion is just because, again, as always, I do wish we could see the original translation, or rather, I do wish this translation was a little bit more accurate to the original diction, to the original wording that's being used, because I just find this line very intriguing and very interesting. I'm not sure if this is meant to be deeper than let me start over. I'm not sure if this is meant to be with nuance, or if maybe I'm just making something from nothing. So let me explain what I mean by this. So he's completely underwater. What he sees on the surface is another world. What I find intriguing about this line is that Eiji, just through the memory, Eiji is a young child, and he obviously is frightened for his life, and he's thinking that he might be drowning, right? Yet we're discussing this idea of another world. What he sees on the surface is another world. I think this is referring to, I think what this is referring to is perspective, or Eiji's perspective. So the idea that even if another world doesn't truly exist, what we see superficially, what we believe, what we understand, that may not be the actual truth, right? We kind of did discuss this a little bit with Professor Ruzenji, where he discussed how people sometimes discuss what they believe, what they understand, but in reality, it's not truly what we do understand, right? This was mentioned in part 2, I believe, as a connection to a philosopher, a quote that came from an industrial designer, something along the lines of, we don't really know what the truth is, or something along those lines. But essentially, I'm paraphrasing what the line, what I believe is referring to is just our own perspective. What we believe to be the quote-unquote truth is not always the truth. There's always going to be a capital T truth. And that's a philosophical idea. It refers, for example, to Plato and the universals versus the truth. So in this instance, while while he believes he is drowning, I believe what's being discussed, what might be discussed, again, it might be an instance of me adding more to nothing, adding more nuance to really, when really it's just a description. But I believe what is being highlighted here is the fact that just because we do understand our own world doesn't necessarily mean that we understand the complete truth, right? And this might tie into the connection to, again, I think it's really interesting how Leon and Eiji were friends when they were young, yet at this point of the story, there's been no mention of Leon, and it's described as if Eiji is a very isolated individual. He has no family. Even his family pet has passed away, and he lives on his own, right? So what happened to Leon? And that was his best friend, as the part describes Leon. Did they go apart? Did they end up just maturing in different ways? So I'm really excited to see where this is going to take us. Again, I'm not going to lie, this part that I just quoted from, this first portion we're looking at, it might just be me making something out of nothing. And as always, I do wish we could have a better translation, but we're going to work with what we do have. And this is what I'm noticing with this portion. So hopefully that makes sense. If it does not, please don't hesitate to let me know in the questions or via personal message. Again, the whole reason why I'm doing this is to have a conversation and a discussion about Digimon Seekers. The next quote that I want to focus on is, a new world. No, actually, I went down a little bit. Something soft and fluffy gently receives Eiji's consciousness. It's a sensation of wearing a wetsuit and floating in the water. Soon the light scatters and the bubbles form an image. A new world. No, the world that's been seeing for a long time is cut in a new way, and it hits Eiji's consciousness with an unprecedented stimulation. It's so bright, the light is too strong here, and yet Eiji can't close its eyelids. What's going on here? So again, I really like this smooth transition from, it looks like we're just talking about Eiji, he's drowning, he believes he sees a new world, and it transitions quite neatly into the mind link, back from the memory into the mind link. The part begins with the world around Eiji disappearing, and logically this makes sense because, well, Eiji's entering another world, right? The Dojo world. So it'll make sense that his senses will have to recollaborate. And I really, again, appreciating this idea of the philosophical truth versus what we do know versus what we're discovering, right? So I like where it states a new world. No, the world that Eiji's been seeing for a long time is cut in a new way, and it hits Eiji's consciousness with an unprecedented stimulation. This really kind of reminds me of Destiny 2's Lightfall, the new darkness power Strand. So Strand has always been present. It's not a new power as in it's been developed at this point in time. Strand was always around us. It's just that the characters of the Destiny universe were not able to see it or recognize it until they discovered it for themselves. Once they discovered it, and acknowledge that Strand is part of all life, quote unquote. Just like in this instance, although it was always present, the only difference is their perspective. They weren't able to see it before, they being the Destiny characters. And now since they discovered this new mindset, they now know about, they have an awareness about Strand, they're able to utilize it and see it. This is what's going on right here as well, because of the mind link. What Eiji is seeing is not something brand new, but rather what Eiji is seeing, what Eiji is seeing has always been present. It's just that now he has a new perspective, a new tool that allows Eiji to enter into this world. And I think that's really cool. Again, emphasizing how the digital world and the human world, they're not so mutually exclusive. They're very interconnected, or at least the professor is hoping that they're interconnected. Yeah. So going on, let me make sure. Yeah. So the next quote I want to look at. This is in relation to characterization. After Eiji sees Chumon being chased and harassed by Chuchumon and Damimon, Eiji is quite shocked about the way that these individuals look, right? I mean, I would be shocked if I saw someone wearing like a poo-shaped outfit out in public and they wanted me to take them seriously. It would take a little bit of a acclimation of my perspective, of my mindset, right? So the quote I want to look at: if this was the Phantom Digimon land, Eiji would have cheered loudly, cheered at Damimon coming out with a robot rat on top of him. However, Eiji has put aside his pure childish heart, which could be amused by the mere appearance of poo in a time capsule of memories. He always looked calmly at what was happening in front of his eyes. Demimon is a poo-shaped Digimon piloted by Chuchumon. So again, as always, I'm going to go back. This is obviously more textual evidence to support what? Eiji's determination. Don't worry, I have a synonym for determination. Him being resolute. So again, as always, Bandai Namco describes Eiji as a quote-unquote loser, but here's more evidence to suggest otherwise. If Eiji was truly a loser, he would have not been able to get over. Excuse me, let me start over. He would not have been able to get over the fact that he's looking at a robot poop, right? That's too much. Yet despite that, Eiji recognizes, you know what, this is not my world. I'm in Logomon's world. I may not understand that completely. Even though this might look a little bit comical to me because of what I was used to, this is a new perspective. I need to acknowledge, I need to put aside my old perspectives and look at the now, right? And I think that's really cool. Again, Eiji's a character who I think when push comes to shove, he is not going to give up. Only because I've been looking into a lot of Warhammer lore. He's a lot like a space marine, right? As long as he's still standing on his feet, I think Eiji is going to keep on fighting, right? Hopefully that makes sense. Pardon the Destiny and Warhammer references, but I'm a big fan of elaboration and clarification, and one of the best ways to do that is using other examples. So that's why I want to focus on this line, because it's further textual evidence for Eiji's resoluteness, his determined mindset. We're going to see. So even if Logomon cannot understand Eiji, that wouldn't stop Eiji from trying to accomplish his main goal, which is what? To infiltrate these Sons of Chaos and discover Tartarus and the Sons of Chaos Go, who just have to figure out a way. Okay, Eiji thinks to himself, let me start over, I'm sorry, I was getting too excited. Eiji thinks to himself, if Logomon can't hear me inside his head, maybe there'll be a way I can manipulate my surroundings so Logomon can pay attention to me, right? We'll see what happens in part 11, but more than likely, I'm sure that Logomon will be able to hear Eiji, and they'll start developing their partnership. I don't know if you guys can see me. I'm going like this to symbolize their partnership. I don't have my video up, so I have the Digimon web page up, so I can't see myself currently. So let's go ahead and continue forward. The next quote I want to look at. The bullets aren't powerful, but they're... so this is when Damimon and Logomon start fighting. The bullets aren't powerful, but they're occupied by a horrible stench. His attack must be torture for a dog with a strong nose. Digimon fighting is all about exploiting weaknesses. Chuchumon's strategy works. No good, no good. I just want to point this out. During my summary, I made it seem like Eiji thought this to himself. I was incorrect about that. Chuchumon states out loud, this attack must be torture for a dog with a strong nose. What I like about this line is the fact that despite this being a textual work, I like how they're focusing on the action, making sure that one understands what's going on. And even though it is really simple, the fact that Logomon is a wolf, he is going to have a higher sense of smell. And once attack is not that powerful, there's other ways to make your attack effective, right? I think that's really cool. This might just be an instance of me making something out of nothing, or this might just be a minor detail, but it's a minor detail that I think adds to the world, not the world building, but just adds to the scenario that's being told here, the story that's being told here. Moving on, the next quote I want to look at. This is after Logomon has used Howling Fire to get rid of the, to win the fight. Logomon glares down at the plush rat Digimon from above. Is it gonna eat? An awful smell. Chuchumon's face twitches and he trembles. On that old interface, is that a Logomon? No, you're the demon wolf of the Castle of Nine Wolves. Logomon, Eiji is taken aback. Chuchumon is talking to Logomon. So this is really interesting. I originally thought that Logomon was a prototype Digimon created by humans, but I'm starting to realize that this mindset is actually incorrect. And the reason why I'm saying this, or the reason why I'm thinking this, is actually because this is coming from the Digimon website. I think I did read this from before, but I didn't notice this detail. Logomon is a Dark Beast Digimon presumed to be an experimental prototype Digimon from before Digimon were discovered due to the old-fashioned interface on its forehead. So the fact that Chuchumon is able to recognize Logomon because of that red diamond-like feature on his forehead, this tells me that I was incorrect in my assumption. The Professor Rizunji, he did not create Logomon. Logomon might kind of be like the Neanderthal, I can't pronounce it, the Homo sapiens versus the Neanderthals. Excuse me, I can't pronounce words sometimes. They're not the same, they're both types of humans, but Homo sapiens, we won now, right? Homo sapiens are the people who are alive right now. It makes me wonder if maybe Logomon is something along these lines as well. If he's some kind of Gigi Neanderthal, and the other current Digimon are the Digi Sapiens, right? Or something like that. I'm looking forward to what this implies. And this ties in really organically, I think, into the next quote that I want to look at. Chuchumon is talking to Logomon, so Eiji, Nine Wolves. Alright, that reminds me. The voice murmurs in Eiji's ear. So you've returned to Waslam, have you? For some reason, Chumon's tone seems more respectful suddenly in response to this conversation. So again, this is further textual evidence to suggest that Logomon may have had a history within the digital world. Maybe if not this Logomon directly, another Logomon may have done something within this digital world. Or maybe it is the same Logomon. We'll discover in the future as the parts get released, right? But I think this is really interesting, foreshadowing to get us hooked for the future, making us think about Logomon and the mystery that's surrounding him. And I think that's done really well. I personally am looking forward to discovering more about Logomon. In case one is not well versed into Digimon, there's actually two other Digimon with those interfaces as well. Demudomon and Ryudomon. I may not be pronouncing that correctly, excuse me. But they all have these interfaces, so it makes me wonder. And these other two Digimon, they are present on on the webpage for Digimon Seekers. You'll see them at the very front. At the very front is Logomon. To the left and right of Logomon is Jirugomon, Dramadomon, excuse me, and Ryodomon. And they all share that same feature, that interface on the forehead. So I'm really looking forward to what this implies. Is maybe connected to some Digimon lore, to Digimon antiquity. We'll see in the future. And then, sorry, excuse me, everyone. Excuse me. I accidentally. Oh no, I guess that was everything. Okay, sorry about that, everyone, because I had opened up some extra windows. So those are the analytical portions I want to look at from the actual text. Beyond that, something that was very minor, the heads-up displayed was actually discussed in this part. When the Chumon, Damimon, and Chuchumon first appear, it's described that on the heads-up. Let me see if I can find that portion. Let me just put right here, heads. Here we go. Data is displayed in the heads-up position. I believe this is a HUD or HUD, and if one watches the Digimon Chapter 1 trailer, at the end of the trailer you're going to see that Eiji, he's in some kind of Iron Man-like cockpit. I say Iron Man-like because the way that the camera is positioned, it's right in front of Eiji's face. All you see is just his face. And at the bottom of the cockpit, it says Digivolution. I thought originally when I first saw that trailer that Eiji was piloting some kind of vehicle or something like that. But now I'm starting to believe that's just him within his mind link. He's inside of Logomon's head. Really cool detail. I'm really loving how there's a heads-up display as well. That's going to be helpful for Eiji. We were to discuss the Leon and Eiji connection. So the last thing I want to discuss is the fact that Digimon do talk. So a lot of fans were a little bit concerned. When I say fans, I am part of the community discussing Digimon Seekers. A lot of us were a little bit concerned that Digimon would not be talking, that this iteration of the digital world was going to contain Digimon who were a little bit more animalistic. Not that they didn't have intelligence, but just that they were going to be more like dragons from Lord of the Rings. Animalistic, or pardon me, dragons from, because dragons can talk in Lord of the Rings. Dragons from Game of Thrones, where although they're animalistic, they're highly intelligent beings and individuals, right? I thought they were going to go that route, but as it turns out, when one is connected through the mind link, humans are able to understand the Digimon. I actually think that's really cool and a really cool feature to be having. So this means, so when Tsutsuki, when we got the chapter with Tsutsuki, the poachers, and Judge, the reason why the humans were speaking and we didn't hear the Digimon talking, that makes sense because the narrator of that portion was just a unnamed narrator. We're getting the story from a third person perspective, not from the character's first person perspective. In this instance, for this part 10, we're getting the story told from Eiji's perspective, and that's why this time we're able to understand the Digimon. I think that's really cool. As always, I know I keep ending on this parts with the same statement or similar statement. I really am looking forward to the next part. All the previous parts is doing a really great job of coming together and just making the story, at least for me, intriguing and exciting and maybe even, dare I say, a little bit immersive, as silly as it may sound. So if you are reading Digimon Seekers, let me know if you're enjoying it so far. What do you think is going to happen in part 11? Are you enjoying chapter 1? And yeah, thank you so much. Have a prodigious day. And if you're going to go digital, make sure you have your vital bracelets or your determination with you. Take care, everyone. Thank you.